Guys, my name is Carl Jackson. I'm a Christian constitutional restorationist, an American that happens to be black, and I look forward to speaking with you today. We have a lot to talk about in the first hour. I'm going to get into the 5 stages of grief, and I'm going to apply them to what we're experiencing in the United States today. I want to know what happened in Wisconsin with the Supreme Court case, or the state Supreme Court seat, I should say. I think the Republican Party, the National Party, needs to answer for that, despite the fact that I understand it's a state race. These are races that we can't miss out on. These are races that we must win. In the second hour, I want to talk about poverty. I'm going to talk about OPEC, the OPEC oil cuts, the dumping of the U.S. dollar, what that means for you. I want to talk about the idea that there's no such thing as a Republican or conservative extremist. I want to talk about how trans is the new black. We have the certified penis owner and trans hustler, I'm going to call him, Dylan Mulvaney, that is capitalizing off of mocking womanhood. And I think that you should all be offended, or we should all be offended. And so we'll talk about that. And obviously there's some issues with foreign policy. We have the Brittany Griner effect taking place, where American journalists are now being kidnapped in Russia. Russia feels emboldened. We have the Chinese spy balloon. We have China telling Speaker Kevin McCarthy that he should not be meeting with or speaking with the president of Taiwan. We will, Lord willing, get into all of that. Man, this is Holy Week, and I'm so excited about this week. So happy Passover. For those of you that might be Jewish, the number to call in, 1-8-PRAGER-776, 1-8-PRAGER-776. Of course, this is Holy Week for Christians. We had Palm Sunday. Good Friday is tomorrow, and then we have Resurrection Sunday on Sunday. So I hope you guys will find your way this weekend to a church facility. Do not forsake the assembling of Christ people. Do not do that. Go to church, get into a church building, communicate with people, develop a community that will be beneficial to you. Okay, let me start here. I have to, whenever I'm doing a show, this is the way that my mind works. I have to confine my thinking to a thing, and when I do that, it gives me more freedom. I know that sounds crazy, but I used to write a lot of columns. I need to get back into that, quite frankly. My time is just insane at the moment, but I need to make time for that, no doubt about it. But when I wrote regularly, and I would write for Town Hall, WorldNet Daily, some of these outlets that exist, I would always have to come up with a title first. I wouldn't even come up with the outline of what I wanted to write. In my mind, well, this is the way God created me. I had to come up with a theme, with an idea. And when I came up with that idea, that theme, or that one-liner, all of a sudden, just confining myself to that theme would allow my brain to explode and just go free and go wild, and all these thoughts would start popping into mind. It's the weirdest thing. So that's what I was doing before, or once Alan Estrin, and thank God, invited me to fill in for Dennis Prager today. By the way, Gabe is behind my back. Sean McConnell is in my ear. Alan Estrin, the producer, is out there in the ether. Who's on the lines there, Sean? All right, Suzette is on the lines. So I want to talk to you about a lot of things, but one of the things I want to talk about is I want to talk about the stages of grief because that's what I was experiencing this week, and then something hit me, and I started to hone in on a theme for this particular show once I found out that I would be sitting in, and I started to call it the American funeral, because I really felt like that's what had transpired this week when we witnessed the rule of law die in America. And yes, I do believe that the rule of law died in America. But after giving it some thought and thinking about it, I'm like, no. That's not it. America hasn't died. As long as patriots like you and like Dennis Prager and like the crew of PragerU, as long as patriots are alive and well, America is not dead. but the rule of law is dead. And I want to talk about that because I got to be honest with you, whether it's conservatives, whether it's Republicans, whether it's MAGA Republicans, I think that we're all kind of getting some of this stuff wrong and the way that we're looking at what has transpired. And I want to view it through the lens of grief. There are 5 stages of grief. They are denial, their anger, their bargaining, their depression, their acceptance. I asked my wife about this last night, and she was like, oh, yeah, they're blah, blah, blah. I'm like, how do you know that? I mean, she's a counselor. But anyway, but this came to mind because I really felt, I'm not going to lie to you, I got depressed just for a moment because I'm not sure that Americans understood the gravity of what transpired this week. But and then I got to a point where I started understanding the stages of grief, and I was like, okay. Now we can fight. Now we can fight. I accept what's happened. Now we can fight. And I'm okay with this. I'm going to share with you a personal story, very personal story, and it's part of my own story. I don't know that I've shared it on air before, except bits and pieces. Sean, how much time do we have before the break? Okay, so let me share this with you. You guys may not know, but God radically changed my life. But some of you may have read some of my testimony online, but I'm going to share something I think is a little more personal. And I went through a custody battle for my lovely daughter. It was a very hard-fought custody battle, and it got very nasty. There's no doubt about it. I started this battle when I was 19 years old, so it's been quite some time. And I just refused to allow the state to tell me what type of dad I was going to be. Now, I've got to rewind a little bit, and then I'm going to dive into the story, and I'm going to connect it. Now, don't try this at home because you have to be brilliant to do this. But I'm going to connect it to politics today and what we're experiencing this week. But I was involved in a relationship, and listen, this is the daughter. The mother of my daughter, and so I have no ill will. I want to make sure you guys know that. This was a long time ago. God has radically changed me, has changed her. Things are different now. But at that point in time, 19 years of age, I was a little rugrat. I was a little wannabe hoodlum, and she was even more ghetto fabulous than I was at the time. And we lived in this relationship, right? That was sinful, as I understand it today, as a believer, right? As a Christian, and so fornicating, having sex out of wedlock, and then we ended up having a child out of wedlock, and again, I wasn't this. She was wild. So there was an instance where, I found out she was seeing somebody behind my back, and I was all upset and, trying to play the victim and all this kind of stuff. But the truth of the matter is I was doing dirt myself. But I did come to a point where I decided to change. I wanted to change for the sake of my daughter. See, I hadn't been raised to live the lifestyle that I had began living. I was raised in a two-family home, or two-parent home, rather, before my mom passed away, and I was only 11 years old at the time. That devastated me. That crushed my dad as well. This guy that was this disciplinarian. That's pretty much all he was. But it absolutely devastated me. But I say that to say, despite the relationship I had with my dad and losing my mother, we grew up in a religious community where I understood the importance of family. I understood the importance of a dad, a mom, and a child. And that's the family. That's the intact family. And I realized that I never wanted to destroy the nuclear family, but I screwed up, and I was so ashamed. But God radically changed my life, and I decided to fight.